Top 5 things Jim Harbaugh did to rebuild Michigan. So as Jim Harbaugh says goodbye to college football, so does the top 5, maybe even saying goodbye to Jim Harbaugh. We'll see. You never know, but here we go. Number 5, challenged conventional recruiting. Satellite camps, and this was practice too, but also moving his team, like having practices in Florida that people come to and watch, and all the different things he tried. Now, some of those things were disapproved. Some of them are approved. Now there's satellite camps all over the place. Rolling the dice when he knew that he would have opposition from coaches when he started doing satellite camps, be like, you know what? Come to our camp and give a talk. I don't care. We're doing this. It's a good idea. And then eventually getting that rule passed. He was pushing the limit and doing things his way that he thought were going to be beneficial to Michigan, and that wound up everybody's using them. But he certainly did not go the conventional route once he got in the door.
Part 2, satellite camps banned by the NCAA several years ago because of this very thing, and him being the kind of guy that got that started. Then Saban was very anti-satellite camp, if y'all remember.
Yeah.
And when's the last time you heard about a satellite camp? You haven't, because they stopped that practice because a variety of complaints and whatnot. But you had a guy like Harbaugh that was clearly like, all right, I'm gonna take this to the extreme, know, and I'm gonna use this. And if y'all remember right before Art Browse got fired, that he was expected to have a back and forth gig with Jim Harbaugh at Michigan.
Yes.
Harbaugh was going to come down here, and then he was going to go up there, I believe.
Yeah.
That was all set up, and that was announced, I believe, like a few weeks before Art got fired. So, that was in the works, was a joint camp with Baylor and Michigan back then. And then, it went away. And then, that did not continue on, basically.
Yeah, I do think one day those things are going to come back. I think it might be in the form of combines, too.
Well, I mean, look what the Big 12 is about to do. I'm not always a big fan of the pro days around here, because there's some years where it's just like, I mean, what are we doing? There's like one guy that has a realistic chance. I mean, it's a great opportunity, but with them now doing the whole Big 12 combine, like, I don't want to just like everything Brett Yormark decides and be like, that's an awesome idea, because I feel like there's some people that are that way, and I don't think that every idea is necessarily great, but I do wonder how that's going to work.
I think that's look. If I was a scout, I would love it.
As a scout, you would love it. I wonder from a coach's point of view, we need to ask Dave Aranda what he thinks. But I do think for those years where it's a little bit thin at certain places, that it makes sense to get them all together. But what happens when there's a ton of do you have like 60 guys out there on one day? But anyways, that's problems to worry about later. But I am interested how that goes.
Yeah. Number 4, built and maintained a system for 8 years. They didn't have to go through system changes. He knew what he was going to do. There was consistency through that. So he never got thrown off the path of what he knew was going to win at Michigan when he got the right guys in. And a lot of times you can get, kind of overwhelmed by the outside of, well, this isn't working. Didn't beat Ohio State, lost to Michigan State. You've got to change your whole system. This is not working. Well, he just knew that when he got the guys he needed in there, that it would. And he built towards that and stayed consistent and built to that and didn't try to do, we're just talking about the Cowboys, what the Cowboys do every 4 years, which is like, oh, this isn't working, let's do this thing, as opposed to, he was more Pittsburgh Steelers about it. This is what the Pittsburgh Steelers do. This is how we're going to build our team. This is how we're going to win. The Ravens are like that. Like, this is how we're going to do it, and we'll make it work as the players get in that we need.
Yeah, I mean, he had the plan laid out, and it took a little time, I think, to get to where they wanted to be. But, I mean, no question the guy knows how to build a roster.
Yeah.
I mean, and not necessarily have to do it with all of the most high-profile recruits in the world. Not to say Michigan didn't recruit well, but I don't think you think of them as like one of the top 5 to 10 recruiters annually. Got some good players, obviously. But, yeah, he knows how to build a team and build a roster, and that's what he's going to be able to do. And now he can do it and not have to worry about contracts, because those are just taken care of. He's got to worry about the salary cap to some extent, but besides that, like, everybody's on an even playing field, and you get to draft your players and all that. So I would think that for some guys, and possibly him, that is definitely a part of the appeal.
Well, the thing that took him the longest was here, number 3. He finally found a quarterback that was a national championship caliber quarterback in J.J. McCarthy, a playoff caliber quarterback in J.J. McCarthy. And look, he's not going to have to do that in LA. He's already got a quarterback signed for the next 7 years in Justin Herbert to a huge deal. But he finally found his guy, and the the vibe that they had as coach and quarterback was really, really good. In that, look, I know that a lot of people are going to be out on JJ McCarthy or didn't see enough. We'll see how good of an NFL player he is, but he was different than every quarterback that they had before him, and he had what they needed to get over the top because, before him, it was guys like Cade McNamara and Shea Patterson. They tried a lot of different things. J.J. McCarthy was the dude that put him over the top.
There are highlights or just little clips of Harbaugh and his quarterback, McCarthy, just hammering him on the shoulder pads, the helmet. They had a special, they got each other. Mm-hmm. And that's always, of course, you want all your players to feel that way, but you could tell that McCartney and also Harbaugh had this really special, almost outside of X's and O's relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 2, he used his detractors as fuel. I mean, anybody, anything that you said about, whether it was coaches not liking the satellite camps or whether it was not all that, he absolutely used his detractors as fuel. This year, he, turned it into the whole country's against us team. We got to go out and win it. He did that. It was, you may want to call him the Emperor from Star Wars. I feel your hatred. It makes you stronger. It makes me stronger. That's okay. But he never was bothered by what anybody said on the outside about him.
By the way, I said McCartney. It's McCarthy.
McCartney was a Beatle.
Yeah, I know. But one of the things that you can do when people hate you or people want to always be in your business, you could either crumble and worry about it or you could use it as fuel. And he did. Sarkisian at Texas, I think, this year, kind of the message to his team, embrace the hate. And what Harbaugh did at Michigan, he did it incredibly well.
Yeah, I think you can come across as an a-hole, but then again, if you're an a-hole and you don't care, what does it matter? So I think that in some cases he came across as an a-hole and didn't care, and then in other cases, pushed the line and yeah, definitely, I think, played a game in some ways with some of his enemies and fed off of that and spun it around and remixed it and used it as fuel and did so brilliantly as part of, being a coach is Kirby Smart. Nobody believes in us. It's shut the hell up, dude. But that was legitimate. Kirby Smart's able to convince his team that everybody hates him. I think Harbaugh is able to kind of play those same type of games.
He was actually telling the truth. Yeah. There were a lot of people Kirby Smart had him yeah, nobody thinks you can do this. No, everyone thinks you can do it. Everybody knows you're going
Everybody
to.
picked you to do this, actually. Yeah. You're the odds-on favorite to do this very thing here.
Nobody wanted you to.
Right, exactly.
That was the difference. And number 1, and this is kind of a blanket statement, but he just didn't give a bleep. He was Jim Harbaugh, and he's going to Jim Harbaugh his way through things, and he didn't do it anybody else's way. And so that has positives and negatives. Michigan will suffer some of those because the NCAA, I'm sure, is going to have to say something. They can't, just be well, he left. And they're yeah, but still, this is, not all of you left and you were still here. Those are the kind of things. So there'll be those things. But for the most part, I think he was successful because, again, you could not tell something to Jim Harbaugh and him get, it's kind of the opposite of Gary Patterson. If Gary Patterson had this button, he would have won 8 Big 12 titles. But, when you said something to Gary Patterson, it was just a bee in his ear. He was
yeah.
If you say something to Jim Harbaugh and he's all
Screw
right,
you, I don't care.
Good for you. All right, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah,
so,
he let it roll off his back for the most part. He definitely shot back when he felt the need to do that. But for the most part, yeah, he just didn't care. I think that's in some ways respectable. I think it can be a weakness also in certain ways. But I think obviously he in the end balanced it all pretty well and mostly did all the things needed to get to where they eventually were and to where he eventually has the greatest send-off you can have by winning a national title and giving his alma mater their first championship in nearly 3 decades? Yeah, nearly 3 because I guess 2027 will be the 30 year.
27 years, 26.
So almost 4. We're 3 years away from that 30th anniversary. Yeah. So yeah, he didn't care. He did it his way for better or worse, whether you liked it or not. And in the end, it got them a title and. He's getting his next shot at the NFL. So, yeah.
The other thing, honorable mention, and he maybe really had nothing to do with this, but Urban Meyer retired. So,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, that certainly opened the door. That helped.
That helped a lot because, things switched after that change happened eventually. And so, that certainly opened the door a little bit more. Whereas, if Urban stuck around, what does that look like? But now it's Harbaugh's out of the way. So who's the guy taking advantage of that? We talked about it earlier. Like Sark, you think would be in line to be a guy that's able to take advantage of the fact there's no more Saban, there's no more Harbaugh.
Ryan
Kirby
Day,
Smart.
Ryan Day.
Ryan Day's probably the one that's on his knees because I think the other two could be fine even if those two still stuck around. But I think they obviously get another leg up by a couple spots. But, Ryan Day certainly is kissing the stars.
Yeah, Dan Lanning now he's going to be in the conference, those things. But, this has been, with the transfer portal and then Jim Harbaugh leaving, this has been the best week of Ryan Day's coaching career.
Oh, yeah.
He's not actually coaching a game.
I would think so, yeah.
Now he doesn't have to get his joy off dunking on an 85-year-old man.
Oh, there you go. There you go. All right, Paul, thank you very much.